amazing they let people rent these out.
Right?
Like,
what to do. Like if
they gave us a little handout about like how to tie it off, but like that's it.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Do they check if one of you knows how to drive?
They don't even ask.
A boat?
Yeah.
About 7 p.m. on our first full day out on Lake Powell on August 2, 2024, we were enjoying a chicken Alfredo pasta dinner made by my 24-year-old daughter Sabrina and her husband Peter when we heard a rumble of thunder. Now in Lake Powell, when you hear thunder, you can pretty much expect a change in weather, rain, wind, water getting choppy, or all of it in a matter of minutes. In our case today, the wind started to pick up and we could feel some raindrops pelting us from the east. We hurried and cleaned up after dinner on the top deck and put all our dishes and food downstairs in the kitchen on the island. That's what I love about being on a houseboat, I commented. I had spoken too soon. Several of us got off the houseboat to tend to our speedboat just in case it needed to be secured for the storm. Within seconds, there was a strong gust of wind that pushed our houseboat the direction of where our speedboat was beached. At first, we were like, okay, the rope held. But no, the houseboat continued moving. Not only that, but it looked like it was going to hit the rear of our speedboat.
It was like this, though.
Yeah.
Like with me pushing it, it was barely touching.
Because
it hadn't gotten there. When I was looking out and it was starting to move, I'm like, hey, when's that rope gonna hit or stop us? And it didn't.
It's loose, Drew shouted, referring to an anchor.
It was actually further than I thought, because I thought our back end was gonna hit the back corner, but it wasn't actually that close.
Yeah.
This side was like trying to pull on that rope, but it was like under the hull, so I'm like, this isn't gonna work at all. So then that's when I like ran back over this way. Like, oh.
I know. And I
This
was
is
like,
where
I
all
need
the
to
action
like
is.
steer the boat, but then the engines were turning on because of the
Yeah,
rope.
that
on
was
it.
scary.
So I was just
Okay.
like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Everyone jumped into action. Our anchors were coming loose from the shallow holes that we had dug midday, which had been left by the people who were there before us. My 28-year-old daughter Sierra entrusted me with her 3-year-old and 18-month-old sons and rushed off outside to help, while Sabrina, my dog Lily, my grandsons, and I stayed inside. Since we started renting houseboats at Lake Powell 3 years ago, Sabrina has captained her houseboat, exceptionally, I might add. She took the helm now. Sabrina started the engine, or at least tried to. She turned the key in the ignition and pressed the starter. Nothing. Come on, she shouted at the dashboard. Meanwhile, the rest of the family was trying to fight the wind, the waves, the rain, the houseboat swinging wide. As for the engine, I guess what had happened was that one of the ropes got caught in the houseboat prop. Luckily, the houseboat must have some sort of a fail-safe mechanism which prevented Sabrina from starting the engine and cutting the rope, or worse, ruining the prop, damages of which could be pretty expensive. Suddenly, from the port side, we saw a couple of young men who appeared to be swimming alongside the houseboat. Sabrina expressed alarm because she didn't want to run anybody over, but it seemed like these guys were trying to go to shore from that side. And then we noticed they had shovels in their hands. They were coming to help us. While they were out there helping dig holes further out from where we had them, and a lot deeper, this tall guy with salt and pepper hair and a calm, take-charge attitude barged into the houseboat and gave Sabrina some advice as far as how to get it turned the right direction so that we could anchor properly.
I did a bunch of stuff and then was like, all right, just hold it like that. And then I did. Okay.
The ropes needed to be tightened next. Earlier in the day when we were trying to tighten the ropes onto the houseboat, it was really hard to get it snug. The problem was that the ledge outside either side were about as narrow as a balance beam. I had tried it earlier today with a life jacket, and I couldn't even bend at the knees without feeling like I was going to fall off. The young man, who I gathered were this man's sons, doubled up to tighten the ropes at our houseboat cleats. One of them pulled in the rope while the other cleated it onto the side. They pushed off with their feet against the hull to get some leverage. Around this time, the dad of the group told my husband, "I'm not doing this because I'm a nice guy. I just want to help you guys now so I don't have to worry about you in the middle of the night. If you are in trouble, then we will be in trouble."
I was more worried about you guys getting loose than it being a problem to us.
It's out here because I'm selfish.
I don't want to be woken up in the middle of the night having us issues and you now. Or you guys having issues and then now us because of it.
As far as how he knew what to do, not only obviously experienced houseboater, but he also, his job is he harvested brine shrimp on the Great Salt Lake. So he, and that's not a time of year where a lot of times the Great Salt Lake's not always good conditions too. You get some big swords and stuff out there.
This family, a dad and his two 20-something sons, had come from across the bay where their houseboat was tied up. We learned later as we discussed what happened amongst ourselves that he used to be a brine shrimp fisherman. And if anyone knows the history of brine shrimp fishing in Utah, Google it. You know it can be a cutthroat industry. So I guess if you're going to have help in the middle of a storm at Lake Powell, he's the kind of neighbor that you want. About this time, we were starting to worry about Sierra because we hadn't seen her for several minutes. The last I heard of her, she had been entrusted with a dad's paddleboard. I went to the back to scan the waters. I was that worried. It turns out that she had been valiantly trying to keep the paddleboard secure and was making her way down the skinny ledge outside.
Everyone else was like trying to dig holes and stuff like that, and I was just like, come on, just do the paddleboard. Because I thought that it was tied, because he gave it to me. He's like, anything that I can tie off with? I'm like, yeah, here. And then he's like, all right, here, hold it for me. And I guess I thought that he tied it because there was like a knot, but it's just a knot in the line that he like wigged through. So then I dropped it, and there's stuff in that knot, so I just screwed away.
Soon she was back with me and her boys inside the houseboat while Sabrina went outside to do something. As Sierra stood by the steering wheel, the dad rushed in and asked her to turn the wheel a certain way. Sierra hurried and called for Sabrina to come back, who then resumed captain duties. Against the pressure of the newly situated ropes, the houseboat stayed tight and secure. In front of us, over the red cliffs, runoff had formed. We seemed to be out of the woods for a bit, so we took a moment to admire them. Within minutes of finally getting the houseboat secure, Sabrina announced she was looking for the dad's flip-flops. He had come over on the paddleboard in his flip-flops, which meant he was leaving through the back. We all gathered there to thank him. "What's your name?" I called out. I thought he said, "I can't tell you," but in actuality he said, "Can't Tilly." At any rate, we said thank you as he paddleboarded his way back to his houseboat with his grown children swimming with their shovels.
They finished, and they just went out the back.
There were some lessons learned. Dig deep in wetter sand and wide for anchoring. Keep the ropes tight. We remarked among ourselves how crazy it is that to rent a houseboat, one doesn't need to show any proof you know what you're doing. And yet here you are in charge of a vessel where the situation could go wrong real quick.
What if that had happened in the middle of the night? We didn't realize it immediately.
Yeah, and just like wake up
And it
wreck.
the pillars are broken or something like that, and we're just adrift in a windy
canyon with a bunch of other houseboats all over, just like taking them out as we go.
Oh, that was
I know it's one thing when it's like your spring bar tent that might get broken or your little shade, but
yeah, stakes are scary. Yeah, made me realize so like good thing we learned about those kind of tricks, because where would we have learned
Yeah.
that? So those things, it was good to
It's amazing they let people rent these out.
Right? Explain like
With
what
no-
to do, like if
They
there's
gave us a
houseboats
little
missing.
handout about like how to tie it off, but like that's it. I
Like, I
don't
wonder
even
how
know.
many-
Do they check if one of you knows how to drive
They don't even
a
ask.
boat?
Yeah.
We are just grateful for neighbors who took it upon themselves to help us, even though they weren't quote unquote nice. Although our family has been to Lake Powell pretty much all throughout the kids' lives, we are 3 years into houseboat renting. This isn't something you can really prepare for, but like other times in our trips at Lake Powell, everyone came through grandly. Earlier in the day, Sabrina had prayed over breakfast that we would more or less have things work out at the lake. We had all laughed about that. Kenrick had said, "We believe in miracles, but not that big of a miracle, because every year, invariably on Lake Powell, something goes wrong." Today worked out more or less, leaning towards more, thank goodness.